There's a number retirement calculators love to hand you. It's called a break-even age. That's the point where waiting to claim Social Security, it finally pays off. Look, you've probably went and seen yours. And I'm going to bet it made you a little uneasy because to hit that, you've got to live a long time, long enough that age itself starts to feel less like financial planning, more like rolling the dice. Look, here's the problem with that number. It was never actually the right question in the first place. Let me show you the 4 questions that will actually decide this. And let's do it in order. Because if the first question answers it, you don't need to waste your time with the other 3. Break-even age was built on just one assumption, that nobody ever questions, that the right choice is whichever path pays you the most total dollars if you happen to live to some hypothetical age. Look, but you're not trying to maximize a spreadsheet. You're trying to cover your life, the one you're actually living, not some statistical average in an online calculator. Look, and here's the wrinkle that makes chasing that spreadsheet number even less useful. Social Security's retirement fund, it's projected to run out of reserves around the end of 2032 into early 2033. And that's this year's official Trustees Report. And that date, it's moved earlier, not later. In each of the last several years, when that runs dry, the program can only pay out what's coming in through payroll taxes. They're projected to cover about 78% of what's already been promised. That's an automatic cut of roughly 22% to everyone drawing a benefit at that point, no matter when you claimed. So even the winning path on a break-even chart, that's not fully guaranteed anymore. So what does that mean? It means chasing a crossover age was already the wrong instinct. Now, it's an even worse one. Like, before we get to those 4 questions, there's one gotcha that we got to talk about first. Because if you're still working, this entire conversation changes. If you claim Social Security before your full retirement age, now for most of you, it's 67 years old, and you're still earning a paycheck, there's a limit on how much you can make before the government starts holding your benefit back. For 2026, if you haven't hit full retirement age yet, that limit is $24,480 a year. Earn more than that number, and Social Security is going to withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 that you earn over that limit. In the calendar year you actually hit your full retirement age, that limit jumps to $65,160. And the penalty gets a little easier. Now, the Social Security Administration is going to only withhold $1 for every $3 over the limit. And it only applies to what you earn before the month you hit full retirement age. Once you're at full retirement age, the earnings limit, it disappears completely. Knock yourself out. You can earn any amount of money any way you want, and you keep every single dollar of your benefit along with that paycheck. Some people mistakenly think, you know what, I can get both, a full paycheck and a full benefit with no consequence, starting the moment that they claim. That is not correct. It's one of the most common mistakes I hear about when I'm talking to potential retirees, and unfortunately, most times when I'm watching someone on YouTube Shorts or like a Facebook video, and they're aggressively telling you to claim at 62. Look, if you're planning to keep working in any real way before full retirement age, that earnings limit, it absolutely has got to be part of your decision from the start. Not something you discover after your first check comes in and it's smaller than you expected. So here's what actually decides this. 4 questions. Let's give them to you in order. First, Do you need this income right now? Number 2, what does your health honestly suggest? Number 3, if you're married, who are you protecting? And number 4, and only if the previous 3 didn't settle it, how exposed are you to that 2032, 2033 cut? For most people, one of the first 3 answers, it takes care of this completely. And you'll know which one applies to you before we're even halfway through. You've made bigger decisions than this one without a spreadsheet handing you the optimal answer. What? A job, a move, buying a house. Those came down to what you actually needed, what your life looked like, not what scored higher on some web calculator. This one deserves the same thinking. Okay, here we go. First question, and it isn't about the future at all. It's about right now. If Social Security is what stands between you and covering your actual bills, and you don't have a reasonable way to bridge that gap, call it savings, a pension, part-time work, claiming isn't a financial failure. It may just be exactly what the benefit is there for. No break-even age, no projected 2033 cut, no, hey, but you'd get more if you waited. It changes that math because money you don't have today doesn't help you today. No matter how much bigger you might have grown to if you waited until age 70. Look, if this is you, everything else in this video is just background information. It's just noise. Claim what you need. Second question, what does your own health picture actually suggest? Okay, not averages, not what you read, not the latest research study, and not what you hope, but what you actually know about your own history, how you're feeling, and your family's history, a family history that may run short, a diagnosis that you're already dealing with, already managing. Shorter expected life expectancy generally argues for what? Claim earlier. Longer expected life expectancy is what makes delaying genuinely more valuable. That's the whole calculation. It's uncomfortable to run, but it's honest, and it deserves an honest answer here, even if you're an optimist about everything else in life. Number 3, if you're married, it's a different question than the one you've been asking. Not what's best for me, but what happens to my spouse after I'm gone. You see, the Social Security survivor benefit, it's based on whichever of you had the higher earning record. And delaying that spouse's claim locks in a larger check for whoever lives longer, often for a decade or more as a widow or widower with no second income to fall back on. That piece of math survives even a projected cut in Social Security, because if you have a bigger number cut by a given percentage, guess what? It's still bigger than a smaller number cut by that same percentage. If protecting your spouse's income after you're gone is the priority in your household between the two of you, that argues for the higher earner delaying, but the lower earner claims earlier to start bringing in income sooner. Look, if you're trying to figure out which of these actually applies to you, your income need, your health picture, your survivor situation, and laid out against your real numbers, look, that's exactly why I built the Retirement Reality Check. It walks you through these things. It's free. Drop your email over at brainflash.com. It comes straight to your inbox. It won't tell you what to do, but it'll show you where you actually stand before you decide anything. Okay, question 4. This is the tiebreaker question. It's only relevant if the first 3 genuinely didn't settle it, didn't give you a clear answer. You don't urgently need the income. Your health looks solid. You have survivor benefits. They're all put together. They're not the deciding factor. Now we come to 2032 and 2033. This is where the Social Security projection cuts. It matters. Claim earlier, and guess what? You've already received years of payments by the time the reduction happens. They can't go back and claw those back. They're untouched by anything that happens later. Wait, and your largest checks are just starting right as potential cuts hit. So more of your total lifetime benefit sits exposed to something that hasn't even happened yet. That doesn't make waiting wrong. It means waiting is a bet. Now, it's a reasonable bet on your own longevity outrunning the reduction, or on Congress fixing this before it impacts you, me, all of us. It's worth knowing you're making that bet instead of just assuming a delayed claim is a sure thing. So let's put it all together in order. Do you need this income to cover your real expenses in your home right now? If yes, end of story. That decides it. Go ahead, claim. If not, what does your health and family history honestly suggest? If that points one direction clearly, then your next strongest signal, you got it. How about if you're married? If you're married, what does your household need the survivor benefit to look like? Does that argue for the higher earner holding off regardless of anything else? And only if you're still on the fence. You're still not sure after all three. How exposed are you to that 2032 and 2033 cut? What happens to your budget? What happens to what your life looks like? Which side of that bet are you more comfortable making? Claiming now or making the bet and waiting to 2032 and 2033? Most people, once they walk through it in that order, find the decision was never as close as a break-even chart made it look. One of these four usually settles it clearly. There is no more argument. You just have to ask the right question first. Now look, one honest objection before we close. Congress has fixed this before. In the early 1980s, Congress was staring down at a Social Security fund that was months from going empty, running dry. They raised the retirement age gradually, brought a portion of benefits now under taxation, and that fix, what? It's held for decades. Most people who study this program expect something similar again, because an automatic pay cut to 70 plus million people, guess what? Not really popular for whoever's in office when that hits. But probably it isn't guaranteed. And as of this recording, nothing's passed. Even a fix may not be painless for people already collecting. Since back then in the early 80s, that version, it affected people close to retirement as well, not just future generations. So don't let Congress will probably act replace that fourth factor. Something also to consider alongside it is the other side of the bet. You didn't come here to this video for a spreadsheet. You came because a decision this important deserves more than a number some online calculator hands you in 4 seconds. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you already knew that. That instinct, that feeling was right. The calculator, it wasn't lying to you. Exactly. It just never asked you the questions that actually mattered. You don't need to predict exactly what Congress will or won't do. You need a claiming decision built around your actual life. What you need, what you expect, who depends on you. That still makes sense. Whether Washington fixes this or doesn't, that's not a harder question than break-even age. It's just a more honest one, and it's yours to answer one question at a time with your eyes fully open. And if this is the first video of mine you've watched, look, check out this video. It breaks down exactly how the survivor benefit changes once one spouse is gone, which ties directly back into question 3 from this video. This is Brain Flash.